Hello and welcome to Easy Math channel. This week we will discuss about Pythagorean theorem, which is applicable on a right angle triangle. Now before we jump into understanding what a Pythagorean theorem is, let me give you a quick history about where or how Pythagorean theorem was discovered. So this Pythagorean theorem was developed by a Greek mathematician, and his name was Pythagoras, and that's how the theorem got its name, Pythagorean theorem. And this theorem has a special characteristic, which is for a right angle triangle. Now, if you look at the right angle triangle here with side A, B, and C, you will see that the side C is equal to the sum of the square of the length of the other two sides, or in terms of mathematical equation, this is same as c square equals a square plus b square, where c is also called hypotenuse, and hypotenuse is always the side which is opposite of the right angle, which is 90 degree. So this is our hypotenuse. And the theorem says that for a right angle triangle, c square is equal to the sum of square of the other two sides, which is a square plus b square. And we'll go over a couple of examples to see how to solve if the two sides are given regardless of a, b, or c. How can we figure out the other side? And we'll go through a couple examples. And at the end, we will use some of these special cases for a right angle triangle, that if we know two sides, rather than always solving via an example, we can just memorize those special cases and we'll know what the third side should be. Okay, so let's look at our first example. So let's say this is a right angle triangle below with A, this is our A, this is B, and this is C, where A is equal to 3, B is equal to 4, and then we have to find out what the length of C, which is our hypotenuse, is. So from the theorem, we know that c squared is equal a squared plus b squared, and we know that a is 3, so which is 3 squared, and b is 4, which is 4 squared. So this is 9 plus 16, which is 25. So c squared is 25. And if we take square root on both sides, we get 5, because 5 times 5 is 25. So we get c as 5. And that's how you use the Pythagorean theorem to find out c, which is our hypotenuse in this case. Okay, let's look at a couple more examples. Let's say for this a is 9, b is 9, and c, which is our hypotenuse, we have to figure out what the c is. And again, using the formula, we know that c is equal to a square plus b square, which is 9 square plus 9 square, 81 plus 81. I can also write this as 81 times 2, because it's 81 plus 81, which is same as 81 times 2. So we know c squared is 81 times 2. And if we take square root, we get 81 times 2. And we know that the square root of 81 is 9. And we can also write this as 9 times 9 times 2, which is equal to 9 times square root of 2. So therefore, our hypotenuse c is nothing but 9 square root of 2. It's not always the case that we'll end up with a perfect number or a rational number. There might be cases like, for example, this, where the hypotenuse can be an irrational number. So for example here, well, there isn't a perfect square root for 81 times 2. Therefore we end up with an irrational number, which is a 9 times square root of 2. Cool. Let's look at another example where a is 9, C, which is our hypotenuse, is 15, and we have to figure out what B is. So again, by going with the formula, which is C squared equals A squared plus B squared, now in this case we know what our hypotenuse is, which is 15 squared. A is 9, and B we have to figure out. So 15 squared is 225, 9 squared is 81, and what's B squared? So we'll have to subtract 81 on both sides. So what do we get? We get 225 minus 81 equals B squared. And 225 minus 81 is 144. And therefore B is square root of 144, which is 12. Therefore with A equals 9, C equals 15, B is 12. So you can see that for any given right angle triangle, how we can use the Pythagorean theorem to figure out a missing side if we know the other two sides. And just a note here, Pythagorean theorem is only applicable for right angle triangle. It's not applicable for any other type of triangle. So okay, so with that, let's look at our special cases now. So, and as you can see that this is a bonus thing, and it's also important if you can just memorize this, and you'll know that for a two given side what hypotenuse should actually be. So if side A is 1 and side B is 1, our hypotenuse is square root of 2. If it's 3 and 4, it's 5. For a side with 6 and another side is 8, our hypotenuse is 10. For 5 and 12, our hypotenuse is always 13. For 9 and 12, it's always 15. Now, another check is the hypotenuse will always be greater than the other two sides. So in this case, 5, which is greater than 3, 4, 10, greater than 6, 8, 13, greater than 5, 12. So you can also use this logic or this concept to check that when you try to solve for any given hypotenuse, it has to be greater. And if somehow you get a lesser number than the other two sides, that means something went wrong in the calculation. Cool. So that was it for this video, where we just learned about how to use Pythagorean theorem for a given right angle triangle and try to find a missing side, which could be any side or the hypotenuse. I hope this video was useful. And I hope that this was clear enough and easy to understand. And if you do like this video, please subscribe to my channel Easy Math, and please leave your comments below. Thank you.